Welcome to another episode of My Story Unveiled. Thank you for tuning in. On this week's episode, I have the privilege of interviewing James Street of Whalar Group and the Lighthouse. We are going to jump straight in and get to know James. So here we go. James, thanks so much for joining me, mate.
Pleasure.
I appreciate it.
Pleasure.
I think I did have a chance to tell you a little bit about like the concept of the podcast. Pretty much, I've always loved just connecting with people and stuff, and decided to do a podcast where I basically ask people questions on their life journey, their accomplishments, stuff like that, their successes. So let's just start at the beginning. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about James, where you're from.
Born in Liverpool, grew up on the Wirral.
Nice.
Which is sort of the posh side of the Mersey, as they say. Until about 10, when I got shipped off to boarding school. So I did boarding school from 10 to kind of 18, but I loved it. It was just, for me, it was like being with your pals kind of every day.
That's cool.
And yeah, got to play a lot of sport. And then coming out of school, like a lot of us, never really knew kind of what was next. I didn't have like I've got to do this, got to do that. I wanted to do architecture actually, but then realised that you had to have, quite high grades in maths.
Oh, gotcha.
Which always confused me, because I was like, I thought it'd be much more sort of design, kind of art-led than math-led. But anyway, I ended up choosing business, which, is one of those sort of catch-all courses that you can go on and do anything after that, right?
Yeah.
So I went to study business at Bath University. Bath was, amazing city. The campus, not so pretty, but the city was great to be around. And the best part about that course is you got to do 2 6-month placements.
Nice.
As part of the business course. So that kind of like gives you a bit of, to dip your toe into different industries and see what you might want to end up doing in life.
Yeah.
So the first one I did in Brazil.
That's quite a ways from home as well, isn't
Let me
it?
think. Actually, the first one I think I did in property. So I was working at a company called Buccleuch Property, and it was sort of managing the estate of Lord Buccleuch, who's like a big Scottish landowner, and he owned a lot of land in Scotland and London and stuff, which was fine. I didn't really get put to work, but I was living and working in London, and that was fun. It's kind of got a taste for all that, wearing a suit every day, which was a novelty at the time. It wears off very quickly. And then back to university, and then for a year, and then a second 6-month placement was in Brazil,
Gotcha.
which is slightly more interesting. But my whole family is from the peanut world, the nut world. Okay. So my grandpa, who was an entrepreneur, he founded a company called Sun Valley Peanuts, which is a relatively big nut brand, especially in Northern England. So he did that, and my dad then married into the business and became managing director, and he found me a 6-month placement over in Brazil.
Nice.
So this was in Fortaleza in North Brazil, where they grow cashews and stuff in the jungle, and so I actually have a peanut tattoo here to sort of represent my family history. But yeah, I did one day in a cashew factory, and the guy that was kind of looking after me was like, "Do you want to actually, spend time in this cashew factory?" And I said, "Not particularly." And so I stayed at home, and I actually painted and did a load of art. Nice, that was kind of what I spent my time doing in 6 months. And then somebody signed the piece of paper, and that was my 6-month course ticked off. Back to university again, and then in the third, so we'd done 3 years out of a 4-year university course.
Yeah.
And then I met Neil, my co-founder today, and we were in a mock interview together, and the person that was interviewing us, was at Saatchi & Saatchi, a big marketing kind of company. Yeah. And she said to both of us, I can't see either of you working for anybody else. And we both sort of sat at the bar kind of later that night, became fast friends, and then we actually left university to start our first business. So
that's awesome. I know from speaking to you previously and like hearing your story with Neil, you went through like a few different kind of like trial and error periods and like tried a few different things as far as business goes. Could you maybe talk about maybe, I don't know, like the art of success in terms of like sometimes needing to fail to, you know, I don't know, like establish redirection? Like what kind of, say, projects or business ideas did you get involved with, you know, along the way to finally getting that success that, you know, propelled you to kind of where you are and where you got to?
yeah, for sure. So when we left, we basically started a travel website. So this is like 20 years ago. So, you know, early days of the internet, there was Lonely Planet, which was like a big name. If you Google the destination, if you Google like Cape Town, Lonely Planet was kind of number one.
Gotcha.
But all of the content was pretty outdated. They send writers out to these places and, you know, every like 5 years or something, the content gets updated with all the latest, like these are the restaurants and stuff. And obviously things are changing so much faster than that. So we came up with a model where we would find a local person to run the website, and we would provide all the back end CRM system, which is, you know, the computer programming and stuff. So people could, all they needed to do is write in the boxes and it would show up prettily on a website.
Nice.
And then it would rank. So that was our first kind of business. And we did that actually for, you know, 8-9 years, I think. And then for various reasons that ended up failing, and we kind of saw the writing on the wall, and we started another business on the side that we could kind of easily move into. But there's a lot of like contradictory, you know, advice that's given, which, you know, sometimes they're like, you got to fail fast and, you know, and quickly and learn. And then other advice is like, you've got to stick with it, you know, and like we were very much of that mindset. It's like, if we just stick with this, we'll find a way through. But it just never felt like we had tailwinds behind us.
Gotcha.
And we were very reliant as well on Google. Like Google held the power in the relationship in a way. So if they wanted to rank your website number one, then they could do that, but they could also change the algorithm, and then all of a sudden you get no traffic. So we were so heavily reliant on the Google algorithm that it wasn't actually a particularly like sustainable business.
Gotcha.
So they made their changes, and it all kind of crumbled down. But you know, we're still in our 20s and still hungry to do the next thing, and then we started making products. So to date, I'd probably say we've done, you know, 8 to 10 different businesses in various different fields, like trying different things, and some have worked better than others, but we've always sort of, we like to say, like failed upwards. You know, you're always kind of learning from those mistakes, and you take those learnings into the next venture and hope you don't make the same mistakes again. But I think it's interesting, like as well, looking at people that succeed or smash it out of the park on their first go, and what that must do for your like ego as well. I don't think it's necessarily a good thing to find that success, you know.
Absolutely. In multiple like fields or different fields, because like if you don't necessarily know how to like manage, say, like the financial side of success, like let's say you were in, I don't know, the industry I was in for a while, which was the music industry, and you do, I don't know, like go viral or off a hit, or you know, you just get approached and you get big. If you don't really know the business side of it, your career can crash like fast if you don't maybe start looking into, okay, how can I invest to, you know, like prolong and sustain, you know, the business or the product or the service I'm offering. So it's definitely important. It's probably a great thing that you did go to college or university for business, because it's given you, I'd imagine, a very good foundation to be able to, you know, create the success that you've had.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I learned anything at university though.
Well,
I mean, the best way to learn is certainly like to do, right? Especially if you're like, you know, you want to be an entrepreneur or you want to run your own businesses and stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of my like, you know, friends at university gone on to, you know, go into banking and sort of like consultancy and management consultancy. Very few are running their own businesses.
England, you know, where we're from, with the drink culture as well. Kids in college and university, or young adults or mature adults even in college and university, I mean, it's a party in itself. Like it's just, it's wild. I don't know how I got through and passed and ended up with an associate's degree, to be honest, but somehow pulled it off.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't the highest priority at that time in my life. But, you know, again, when I left school, what happened with me was my mum marched me up to the bank on the last day of school and said, I'm opening you a bank account. I was like, all right, that's fine. She said, because you're either going to go into the workforce or you're going to go to college. So she says, you know, we're going to like, you know, if you make an income from work. And to be honest, dude, I was at a place where I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't really also need people making decisions for me, but she just looked at like, what are you doing well at in school? Mm-hmm. My highest grades are in like English, like literature, language, and media studies. But to be honest, like all I wanted to do was play music. So I was so heavily inspired by music and bands, and I wanted to play like in rock bands.
Yeah.
So that was like my kind of tunnel vision thing. So everything else outside of that, and I'm sure you know how it, you know, can be like when you're absolutely passionate about something, that's where all your focus and energy is going, really. You might not like neglect and throw all your responsibilities out the window and stuff outside of that, but you know, you put in everything you've got and all your enthusiasm into that one thing that's your passion.
Right.
So even though I went to college and was doing that, I was just so inspired to do music, and that's what essentially like eventually brought me out to the US. But I had like a situation as well where like this was kind of my career goal, and I hit a point where I'm like, do you know what? I kind of need to reevaluate where I'm at and if this is actually an avenue that I want to pursue, because I put so much time, you know, blood, sweat and tears, money into music and all angles, not just like recording, you know, but also like PR and marketing and stuff like that, you know, and even being in a studio, if you, you know, paying an engineer and you're making a record, you know, it's like it adds up. So I've had those times myself where, you know, I've been pushing something which was like, you know, my absolute like passion projects that I believed the material, you know, and the content or the music was good enough to, you know, be on that certain level to reach people. And I'm not, you know, like sour about not making it as a musician, because sometimes you will just be redirected in life towards something that's more beneficial for you. And, you know, you might not know it at the time,
right?
But in time, you know, like, other things, you know, make themselves apparent, come into fruition, and you know, I guess you could argue like tastes can change, you know, over the course of time as well. So you can always find new interests to pursue, you know. So for me, I honestly look at it now, it's a blessing in disguise that I kind of shifted a little bit away from music, because while I enjoyed it, there was also a lot of like dark days for me in music, because the party atmosphere, you know, and stuff. So for me, I got very like carried away with the lifestyle angle, and thankfully caught myself at the right time, got sober, and I don't know, naturally I just kind of moved away. My priorities changed, but you could argue that happens as you mature as an adult in life as well, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
I guess like, since we're here in sunny or not so sunny, gloomy Venice Beach today, talk to me a little bit about what brought you out to the US.
Look, I think, you know, a huge part of, opportunity out here is just massive, you know, compared to the UK, really. I think the way I look at it is like the UK has got a lot of bright people, you know, and a lot of people on relatively small like island. And, you know, the US is sort of like similar size to Europe, but you don't have all of the, you know, the different countries, you know, everyone speaks the same language. You're dealing with like one buyer for the various things. So I find it a lot, you know, we find it a lot easier to do business kind of out here. So we set up an office in New York, and then myself and Neil decided we come and sort of set up on the West Coast. But that was, I think, about 7 years ago, and it's we've just never looked back, really. The weather helps, certainly.
Absolutely.
You get a lot of Brits out here, in LA, don't you? Because I think like people come out here and they get a taste of it, the sunshine, and they're like, I'm not going back.
No, absolutely. I felt like I was a bit bored of England by the time I was about 20, to be honest. And like I'll turn 40 next year. So I've been here like 19, 20 years almost. But I don't know, maybe it's just because I had more of like a burning desire as that creator and that artist and musician in my teenage years. But my dreams were just bigger than what I felt I could achieve in Birmingham.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't necessarily really do anything really on too much of a crazy level. I didn't establish myself. I'm not a big name back home.
Yeah.
But I always just felt like, maybe that was just a calling to be somewhere else and try something else. But yeah, I mean, England, it's tough. Like the weather, 9 months of the year, it's not pretty.
Yeah.
So sure. we distract ourselves with like football and all that kind of stuff.
Drinking.
Yeah. That's awesome.
When did you get how long have you been sober?
So I've been sober just over like 9 years, almost 9.5 years. Okay. And it was just purely the fact that even when I was like drinking and being irresponsible, I was always smarter to know that I should be better than I am.
Right.
And it wasn't so much like I was absolutely like screwing my life up. It was just more, I feel like people closest to me were just more embarrassed of me just being irresponsible, I think, in terms of just not getting the best out of myself. So It's not like I was being like an absolute wreck and being ridiculous, going around smashing up cop cars, stuff like that. It was nothing like that. It was always like a good time, like happy drunk.
Right.
But it was just that became priority over everything else. And it's like people like would want me to like join their band out here, and it was good opportunities because I've got like the image to be in a rock band, but I'd absolutely like balls up auditions, by like not showing up because I'd been partying all night and stuff like that, and like I'd be in bed till like 4 p.m. or something. And then I could just tell like my family went a bit more quiet and not distant, but I just knew that like I'm not getting the best out of myself because of my behaviour and excessive drinking, and let's call it alcoholism, and call it for what it was. So I just got to a point where I got a bit tired really of just like disappointing other people, and I just knew that I had it in me to be a better version of myself. So I just knocked the drinking and party lifestyle on the head, and I just saw like a lot of good like positive changes and opportunities since then, to be honest.
I'm just going down that path. I find it takes a lot of guts to like cut it out completely, because I'm not of the, I wouldn't call myself like, I don't need a drink. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't wake up going, I've got to drink. I'm not like an alcoholic, but when I do party, I like to party. But I find it very difficult to just like go, hey, I'm not that side of me is over. Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like also like I'll be, a lot of friends and everything like that back at home. It's like it's still a big part of like their life,
dude. And that's the hard part. Now, thankfully, my friends and my family like respected the decision, because I think they knew like, all right, it's time. But it was more difficult here because I was a musician in Hollywood, and the Hollywood party scene alone is like it's nuts. It's a different vibe. So I was also amongst people that were enablers, not in a bad way. It's just because that was their lifestyle. So all they know is to.
They don't want anyone around not drinking either.
So for me, it was very hard. And I'll be honest, and I'll tell this story. Like for me to get sober, I couldn't really quit cold turkey. So what I ended up doing was I'd go to like a bar, because being a musician, you're still playing at places that serve alcohol. There's going to be people drinking around you. So a big test for me was, okay, I still want to continue this as my like career path right now. I've got to be able to hold firm and feel comfortable and be comfortable in these environments. Otherwise, I'm just not going to be able to hold up and do it. Either I'm going to crash and relapse and I'm going to be drinking again, or I'm just going to have to absolutely X these environments out of my life and lifestyle. So how I counteracted that was I'd wean myself down to like no alcohol by drinking non-alcoholic beers. Now, being from England, we're so used to drinking out of pint glasses. So what I'd do is if I was at like a gig or playing a gig or you know, hanging out, I'd ask the bartender for a non-alcoholic beer, like a St. Paulie's or something, pour it in a pint glass, and then nobody didn't know I was drinking. Like nobody knew I wasn't drinking at the time. So that's how I got away with it for a little bit. And then like after so long, just once people, do you want a shot and stuff, I was like, no, I'm good. And people kind of like cottoned on, and I just told them like straight up, this is how it is. I need you to respect it. Like I've seen how I am when I'm in this kind of mode, and I just, it was. I don't know. I just had a turning point, and it's it's a good decision for me.
Sure. I think it's a good decision for anybody.
But like thankfully, like going home to the UK, like you said, it is like a big drink culture, and there is that like peer pressure. But thankfully, I've got like good friends and family that respected my decision, and they're never like pushy. So that helps a lot. And to be honest, it's a good test of your own like integrity, I suppose, to be able to not budge.
For sure, 100%. I respect that for sure.
Let's talk about the Lighthouse, since we're like here. Let's talk about the Lighthouse. Just for anyone that say like isn't familiar with the Lighthouse, obviously it's your first year here in Venice. You're opening up Brooklyn pretty soon as well.
Week,
Fantastic. Talk to us about the Lighthouse journey, and how did that come about, and gradually evolve to where it's at now?
So Whalar is Whalar Group is our holding company. Whalar is our agency which connects brands to creators, and so we're building various different things around the creator economy, enabling creators essentially to do what they do in a more professional manner. And so the Lighthouse is a creator campus, which is really bringing creators together. Before that, it was very much like everybody's kind of out on their own islands, creating content in their bedrooms, and it can be quite a lonely existence. And so the Lighthouse has really been put together for people to learn from each other, to meet each other, to have that like sense of community, as well as to be able to do what they do in an easier format, and learn from maybe more traditional kind of Hollywood as well, how to get a script kind of made from the beginning to made into a movie, or same on the music side or in gaming. So we've got this amazing campus here to sort of fulfill any creator's dreams, I guess. But I think the most important part of it all is community, and that's why I kind of love it. And I come here every day as well, because I just love that being around people. And I think a lot of us, especially post-COVID, right, miss that connection.
What was your like inspiration for starting like a campus and a company like the Lighthouse?
It was a real mix of stuff. Like any idea, it was kind of born out of like various 100 different thoughts and conversations with people. And Colin and Samir, who are big creators that work out the Lighthouse in the space, they sort of validated the idea that it would be something that the creator community can kind of band around and would be a good thing for them. So, not being creators ourselves, we wanted that validation, I guess, from two of the best. So, we teamed up with them and made it happen. And now obviously we have Brooklyn opening next week, and then we want to do one in Austin, and we want to do, 10 around the world, really globally. And then form a digital community as well, so that people can kind of learn no matter where they are from community members, the Lighthouse. And if they happen to be in one of the major cities, they can come into the Lighthouse as well.
That's phenomenal, dude. That's phenomenal. And I'll say that I spend time here, and I've had times in my like life as an artist creator where I'm lacking motivation and inspiration, and sometimes just having a simple conversation with somebody just sparks and refires something in me, because you see people here like so dedicated to producing like good stuff, and just they've got such creative like mindsets, that seeing some of the events and the creators here, it's been extremely inspiring for me as well. So I think you've done like a fantastic job of like building this up, and again, it's still in the early stages. So I can't imagine to see like how it's going to be over time, and then all the new different locations popping up. Also, Austin's a big music city as well. So
I think we'll have like slight differences in the lighthouses depending on where they are and who kind of the base, like the creator base is. You know, Nashville, we talked about having more of a music kind of centric space as well.
Who knows? Maybe we'll end up having like the Lighthouse Records,
absolutely,
or something.
100%. Well, a big part of our next iteration is Lighthouse Studios, where we're going to be raising a large content fund to invest in creator content alongside creators. So turning YouTube basically into TV. It already is the next sort of TV or iteration. It gets more viewership than Netflix, but really kind of investing in those creator shows is what we want to be doing next.
That's cool. And it's a great space. You've not only got like the podcast studios, which we're in one right now, you've got like the main theatre, which is fantastic and good for, just all sorts of, not just presentations, but different types of events as well.
That's our biggest sound stage as well. We want to put like a huge screen in there to essentially acts like a green screen, so like an LED wall, so you can project kind of any image onto that wall, so you could almost make your own sort of feature movie based on that technology. So to enable like creators to have that would be great. We want to sort that out for them.
That's fantastic. I was going to ask you, you mentioned like earlier at the beginning of the interview, I don't know whether this just came back to me, but you went to like boarding school as a kid. And I was thinking like when I was younger, if you were in boarding school, kids almost got like a bad rap. It's like, oh, like the naughty kids like go to boarding school, like and stuff like that. I don't know why, but like, was it just like a way in which your parents can kind of like offload you?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like a lot of boarding schools, obviously, it's like some of the best education that you can get, right? And we were like an hour and a half away from home, so it wasn't the end of the world. And I feel very fortunate. But some people take to it, better than others. I still think like I've got a 9-year-old boy, and I can't imagine shipping him off to boarding school. I just want them close by. So yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, some of my friends were like boarding from 7 years old, which is just crazy.
Gotcha.
Like, crazy. And and it's literally like Harry Potter. You're sleeping in a room with like 12 other kids.
Dorm style.
Yeah, but I just saw it as like it's one big sleepover. I loved it. So it's all how you like perceive it, right?
So it was just a nice like coast for you, like a coast through.
No, it was fun, and we're playing sport until bedtime, every evening. So just like outdoor with your friend, you got a team. Cool. You got at least 20 players in whatever game you want to play. Like at your beck and call. So
since you've jumped into childhood and touching on sports a little bit, Villa, who's your team, and tell us why?
So my team is Everton. Again, my grandpa was pretty heavily involved in the club.
Nice.
I think he was like a director or something like that of Everton, like way back when. So he was like a diehard Blue. Went to almost like every game.
Nice.
And so I grew up with that. But
gotcha.
I'm equidistant between Everton and Wrexham. And so I was saying to my parents, maybe we can go into a few Wrexham games.
Yeah, and that's funny as well, because like Wrexham got like bought by Ryan Reynolds, right? And I can't remember the other celeb's name.
Rob McElhenney.
Yeah. So Wrexham have had this very interesting little progression. Now it probably won't be long before they're playing Villa and Everton at this rate.
100%. Yeah, 100%. See them go through have they jumped like 2 or 3 leagues now? It's in a row. It's kind of crazy.
It's funny actually, because the ex-England keeper, and he's played for a bunch of teams, I think like Birmingham, possibly Manchester United, but Ben Foster.
Yeah, he's a creator.
He has a podcast called Fozcast, the Fozcast, I think, and they signed him. They signed him, I think, because one of their things was like get a Premier League goalkeeper, an ex-Premier League goalkeeper. So they signed him for a season or two.
No, they did.
Yeah.
You don't watch the show, do you?
I've caught little glimpses. I've caught like little glimpses of Fozcast, but I haven't watched the What's it called?
So what it's called Wrexham.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. What do you think of Tom Brady and doing Birmingham City? Right, he's
Interesting. I think I did hear about that. I
Yeah.
think I did.
I think they're trying to do another Wrexham, but
Yeah. Wow, how interesting.
yeah, it's a model that seems to be popping up quite a lot. I don't know.
Brady's gone from football to the real football.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tom Brady's obviously like a great like quarterback. I feel like he's probably his level of like success, and like Super Bowl wins and stuff. He probably can be happy with what he's achieved and start a new project.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just fun for him for sure.
Yeah. That's cool. Back to the Lighthouse. I know you had like some pretty high level like celebrities that have come in, whether it would be for like grand opening events and stuff. Can you talk a little bit about like not necessarily your relationship to them, but like how you kind of linked up to get them in here?
Yeah, I think it's a mutually beneficial thing for somebody that wants to launch whether it's a film or a product at the Lighthouse, because the creators, they want to again learn from that kind of more traditional Hollywood, or learn about how to launch a brand successfully.
Yeah.
So when somebody does come in here and launches a product or a movie, and then they get to come and collaborate with creators or like jump into the kitchen and like cook something, whether they're launching a cooking product or not, or record a podcast with some of our creators, then do interviews with the director and stuff. Like there's this mutual beneficial. Obviously, like they're getting the promotion from creators within the Lighthouse, and creators get like a first look see to this traditional world of Hollywood. And they always even though they're born out of YouTube, I think a lot of creators obviously want to like take their format further, whether on TV or film. So it's been really cool to see, and I think we're going to be doing more and more of it. Do you know what secret cinema is?
I've heard of it, but I'm not.
Yeah, so like in the UK, they have this thing called secret cinema where, if you're going to watch Star Wars, you'll like the movie, everybody comes in dressed as like characters from Star Wars. You have, people walking around, and then like the set looks like Star Wars. And I think we're going to be doing more and more sort of film premieres like that, which would be really fun.
Killer.
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. I'm excited to see what movies or remakes are coming out then for 2026.
Yeah, exactly. It does seem to be a theme, doesn't it? They're remaking all these old movies.
Yeah, I do feel like the Lighthouse is a great space for creators to like up their game, because like you were saying about a lot of creators, like pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, were in basically like making content out of like their bedrooms, or homes, or maybe I don't know, parks and stuff like that, depending on what you're doing, if you're a fitness creator or influencer. But I feel the Lighthouse has like a fantastic like layout and everything available for, as a creator, if you want a place to not just like connect and potentially like build relationships, even working relationships, but just a place like to really up your game as a creator. Yeah,
for sure. They're learning from each other, and they're learning from other people that we kind of bring in. There's always some talk happening in the evenings, almost like every night. But the way creators grow is obviously by collaborating with each other, because they're leveraging each other's audience and exposing themselves to each other's audience. So that's what we're here for, basically. That's what it's been built for.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. I'm going to ask just a couple like little personal questions. Maybe some like experiences that you've had like along your journey, whether it be as a person or in like business with like you different like companies and stuff, but just some experiences you've had along the way that were key in developing you into the person that you are today. Is there anything like?
I think just to your point earlier about failure, we've certainly seen our fair share. I think nothing really rocks us too much nowadays. We just kind of like live life a little on an even keel, whether
Yeah.
like the news is really good or the news is really bad. You know,
Right.
like it's not good to put your body and mind through all that roller coaster of being an entrepreneur. So
Yeah.
I think that's like our biggest kind of, you know, takeaway from 20 plus years of like doing various kind of entrepreneurial businesses. I think it was Churchill said, you know, going from one failure to another without lack of enthusiasm, or, you know, that has been a bit of a mantra. It's always like onwards and upwards.
Optimism
For
over
us.
pessimism kind of thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. You need to be an optimist to be an entrepreneur, and you just got to keep going, because you know it's how many goes at bat eventually like something's gonna, you know, stick. And you know, the Lighthouse, or the creator economy when we first started, which is, you know, what we're still doing today and has been our sort of greatest success. You know, we were like early to the game. We could have never envisioned that, you know, these creators would be such a like a media powerhouse, like advertising platforms unto themselves.
Yeah.
Right. It's just another thing that we were doing at the time. But then you feel like this kind of, you know, tailwind behind you, which we'd never felt in a business before. And it's like, oh, okay, this is what it feels like when the stars are aligning, you know.
Yeah.
And then we kind of leaned into that space. So I think that's, you know, the biggest learnings for me, really, taking life, with a grain of salt. And you know, we discussed this a little earlier about, you know, if you hit it out the park on your first go at bat, then you're probably like, you know, your ego gets the better of you. You have too much money, too young.
Yeah.
You haven't like shed those demons that, you know, you just want to like the excess.
Yeah.
Especially in your 20s.
It can
like,
come crashing down.
Who knows what would
hard
have
and
happened
fast.
if our first business had taken off and that had happened to us and we'd found that early success. But I might not be sat here today.
Yeah. That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. Do you have any particular, say, like practices, rituals, routines that you like uphold that make like a biggest difference in your day-to-day life?
I think a little like you know, I definitely drank a lot more than I used to. Wait, the other way around. Yeah, I used to drink a lot more than I do.
What's in
now.
that cup right there? Should have got security to have a look on the way in.
And I think like it's funny because you sort of use alcohol, don't you? And as like something to like help your sort of anxiety or like the pressure, and actually it just like makes it worse. And so I think like a lot of, you know, what I'm doing, like my practices, if you will, is, you know, just doing a lot more fitness, drinking a lot less, feeling a lot better the next day. I've got less anxiety in my life. I deal with like the problems a lot better. And those are like the daily things. I'm starting to get into transcendental meditation, which I found to be like the best form of meditation. I've only just really discovered that. But I find like I could do like a 20-minute meditation now, a hell of a lot easier than I could do, you know, 5 or 10 minutes before without this practice.
The wandering mind. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Which gives you know, the mantra to focus on. Whereas any other meditation is like just push away thoughts. But
definitely, dude. I'll say like 2 things on that, and I'm sure you know, like, you know, out here in the US, you know, there is a lot of like stress and anxiety, and sometimes people might feel like overworked, and then you use things like, I don't know, alcohol or prescription medication as almost like coping mechanisms, or to, you know, to calm you down. But a lot of times it ends up kind of like adding to the mania of like what's going on. So I made a point when I stopped drinking to also just almost like clean my whole like kind of system up as well. And eventually, I don't know if it was just part of moving more towards like a spiritual place, but you know, I ended up like becoming like vegetarian. I went vegan for a few years and tried that, then went back to vegetarianism because I just felt like I was missing some key like nutrients. But I've kind of like tried it all with regard to not really just experimenting, you know, on myself as a human, but just seeing what works for me, you know. So
you do a lot of breath work.
I do a lot of breathwork, yoga, and meditation, and I actually learned that through like a quite popular guru called Sadhguru. Very, very popular guru. He's got like
I've just listened to his podcast on Diary CEO.
And like I don't know, dude. Like I always just said I'm a person that really values tradition, regardless of like what it is and where it's from. So I always said, like if I wanted to learn yoga or something like meditation, I want to do it from an absolute like master, like a yogic master. And I think because I planted that seed, it ended up happening. So I didn't want to go and do a yoga teacher training program or do classes at like just a typical Western yoga studio, like no disrespect to them, because I wanted to really take in like the core traditional foundational like values that came from say like India and the East where it originated. So I held off, and then at the right time the universe was like, hey, there's your yoga and you're going to do it in this format. And I ended up getting involved with Isha Foundation, which is Sadhguru's foundation. He's got yoga centers in India. He's got a massive one in Tennessee of all places, and then he opened one also in like Canoga Park area in LA. Right. So I started to do like programs there, but what blew me away like more than that was just the level of this guy's wisdom. And for some random reason, like I just always felt like this pull to Eastern culture. Like I loved like Buddhist wisdom and Buddhist culture and stuff like that. So even like before I got sober, like I have a tattoo of Lord Ganesha from like the Hindu religion and stuff, and I just always felt this interesting pull to like that level of spirituality because it holds a lot of really good valid wisdom. Sure. And not just on like a religious level, but in terms of just like knowledge and just getting like the best out of yourself as a person. They teach so much in terms of even like dietary recommendations, right. And it's also valid to having your system in like an optimum place to perform. And on that note, like we live in a day and age where we're very like it's a very fast-paced world, I'd say, these days because of tech advancements and the availability of I guess like technology, the level of where things are at, it's a very like fast-paced world, and I appreciate the practices that I've learned and some of the rituals I do, which is breathwork, yoga, meditation, because it allows me to center and slow down in a city like LA, which is just so full on. I mean, just driving in LA alone is a challenge some days.
Live in New York.
So
I think LA's full on, go to New York.
But
yeah. So tell me a bit about. Go on. What are your daily? What are your daily go-to?
Yeah. So I have funny enough, like a concoction I make every day, which is more immunity centered. So I'll get up every morning, boil the kettle, I'll squeeze about a quarter of a lemon, sometimes a little bit of orange or grapefruit, but quarter of a lemon in a glass, and I'll pop in there salt, pepper, honey, turmeric, and a little bit of ginger. Pop a bit of hot water in there, mix it up, smash that. That's the first thing I do when I get up. Literally
Not
shoot it and bang.
Okay.
And I've done that every day for honestly about like 5 years. And I can tell you, like, I never get colds. I never get the flu. I never get sick. It's like my go-to, like...
Is that breakfast then? Do you just skip breakfast?
No, I don't really eat like breakfast until probably like 11 a.m. Yeah. 11 a.m. midday.
Yeah.
And this is more like...
So you're doing 2 meals a day?
Pretty much, yeah. Two meals, this honestly, this is more like the yogic diet as well, really. But yeah, I'll do that. I love my coffee. I'll have a coffee like after the juice, and I'll have a little break, and then I'll do my Kriya yoga practice, which I learned through Sadhguru's foundation, and it mixes like Om chanting with like deep breathing, breath work, or alternate nostril breathing, which is good for like balancing out the channels in the system. yeah, it's basically just different forms of like breath work and shorter yoga postures. But I find that it makes like a world of difference energy wise in me. So they're like my rituals, just a good immunity booster to start the day, coffee to wake up, my yoga meditation practice.
How long does that take?
That's only about a 30-minute practice, but I can't do it like really like caffed up. So I have to have a little break in between having coffee and then doing the practice.
Yeah.
But it sets me nice, and then I'll eat after that. So yeah.
And that's it for the whole day.
I'll eat like lunch later on. Oh, sorry.
No, I meant like on the sort of yoga meditation side.
Sometimes I might like try and get a class in, you know, like later in the day, say, I don't know, after work or something. Yeah. But I don't know, I kind of do everything off of like how I feel in myself. It's like, I don't, you know, do I need it? Do I want it? I try and like measure off of that. But yeah, I think like as well, like I try not to feel too stagnant at any given time. But I don't know if that like plays into, you know, living in this world where you feel like you've always got to be getting something done, you know. But sometimes I value just peace and feeling like I have peace of mind and feeling centered, you know. Like I used to not be much of a homebody, and I think that's because I was you know, like so focused on like, or I want to get out there, I want to network, you know, I want to get to know these musicians or the booking agent at this venue. And I was so on the go the first like 5-6 years I lived in LA, that now I actually value like my home time, or just being relaxing, or doing some research, you know, or like reading like some good wisdom and stuff like that. That's cool. That's kind of where I'm at.
That's cool. I want to dig into that offline at some point as well, because I'm just kind of like jumping into that whole world and just seeing where I want to spend more time, you know. Like transcendental meditation, they recommend 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening, which is quite, you know, 40 minutes in a day is quite significant when you're trying to do, you know, look after your body as well, like, you know, get out in the sunshine, do walks, like there's just so many different like breath work, like yoga, like where do you put your energy, like which one's the most effective? Maybe it changes depending on the person, but I think it's knowing you and knowing where you can fit that in. Because when I was in like a temple program in Thailand last year, the monk who was leading the program, he said you can always start small and build up, because if you try to do like too much and you're not disciplined at that level, then you're most likely going to fail, or you're not going to pull it off. So you can start small and build up, and he recommended start with like 5 minutes. And you know, and there's certain things, like obviously, you know, we have a mind, we think, right? So thoughts are going to come. But what I learned, and something that I repeat often, is what I was told by a Buddhist monk is, you know, it's normal to think, we have a brain, sometimes there's going to be external distractions going on, but it's all about bringing everything back to center, you know. Or just like the waves of the ocean, they kind of wash up on the shore and then they return to the ocean. It's like acknowledge that thought and then just let it pass. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that's a big helper in meditation. It's just, if you do fall off, just bring yourself back, you know. That's what I like about having the mantra, because it helps you bring something back to, you know.
Mantras are like very powerful, and I mean like the modern day as well, and I've spoke about this a little bit if I've done like brief little like lectures and stuff, but you know, mantras they're kind of used in like, you know, like the self-help world a lot, like I suppose, like, you know, people sometimes go into these like programs or read books, and then it's more like affirmations, I suppose, like self-help affirmations, and that's kind of what the modern day mantra is. But I suppose you know, because I've got such a knowledge of like Vedic philosophy, and there's like a lot of like mantras which is more connected to, say, like divine source energy and things like that, or God, you know, depending on what your beliefs are. I've done a lot of like deep dives into mantras to the point where I've learned a lot of actual like Sanskrit mantras and stuff. So it's interesting. But yeah, I think it's important to have like a mantra that works for you, that doesn't have to necessarily light something up in you, but I think it really helps if it's like positive, you know, and helps you like move in like a positive direction.
Right. Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
Dude, all right. Like, since we're kind of coming down towards the end of the podcast, let me ask you. Obviously, we know where you're currently at in life with your business endeavors and stuff, but like, how's everything going in that regard? Like, you've almost had like a year up and running with the Lighthouse. Brooklyn's about to open. I think you should be like ridiculously like proud of like, you know, yourself and what you've done with Neil and John and Steve, you know, and everyone else involved here at the Lighthouse. How are you feeling about everything, and what's next on the agenda for you?
Again, I'm on that even keel a little, but I do feel like we're just kind of beginning, at least on the Lighthouse journey.
Yeah.
You know, we want to grow this into something massive for the creator community around the world. As well as grow out Lighthouse Studios and provide, you know, capital for creators to create their own, you know, to create their dreams, essentially, the dream shows and the dream type of content they want to be creating. So working with them on that is going to be really fun. We're doing, you know, 5 or 6 different networks on YouTube. So, you know, we will be sponsoring shows like in a sports category and then putting them all under one sports umbrella.
Nice.
And those networks we're doing our version of MTV. We're doing,
oh, dude, that's killer.
You know, comedy. We're doing sports. We're doing food. And then one that I'm particularly excited about is Good News as well. So one of my friends, Anthony, he owns or co-owns the Good News Network. Along with this lady, Jerry, who founded it sort of 25 years ago. So if you Google Good News, it comes up number 1. They get millions of hits, you know, a month, showing people like are trying desperately to find the good news out there and all the stuff that they see. So
that's killer. I like that for like a concept and idea, because like when you think of like the news and news media, it's a lot of like negative stuff, a lot, you know, a lot of quite dramatic stuff.
If it bleeds, it leads, as they say.
Yeah. So that's awesome.
Yeah. So that's where I want to like spend a lot of time as well, in blowing up that, making sure that more people get good news in their lives on a daily basis, and it helps everybody, helps society, you know. Definitely.
It's funny, I won't go off into like a big like rant on it, but I have talked about things like overall like vibrational frequency and stuff, and some people think it's like a little bit of like, you know, like a woo-woo or like a, you know, I don't know, like a very like a Western spirituality type thing, but you know, like your energy and like where you're at, or even like what you consume, it has a big 100%. Impact on what you end up exerting, or how you feel within yourself, you know. So that's one thing. When I like altered my like lifestyle a little bit, I also like just stopped unfollowing certain things that I didn't feel for my highest benefit, or stopped watching things, because you know, it's not just what you consume in terms of what you're eating or drinking. Everything carries like a certain like energy, and it's it's gonna have an overall like effect on you. So you know, even the type of conversations, interactions you have. So I always try to keep it, you know, upbeat, positive, or motivational, or something inspiring, because it helps me as an individual, you know.
Definitely. If you wake up in the morning and you consume like a typical, you know, news website, you're basically just, you're seeing the worst of humanity, and it almost makes you want to like, you know, just off, or like angry at the world, and you just it sort of makes you give up a little on humanity. So.
And I try to find that balance. Like, I never want to seem insensitive, because obviously I sympathize with some of the unfortunate stuff that's going on around the world, but it's hard to get very like emotionally invested in it as well, because like, I mean, it's a tough one, but I'm definitely with you. You know, like we're always being kind of like not attacked, but you know, we're always being pelted with something. So I always choose the more, you know, like positive or brighter side. You know,
for sure.
One
of my favorite creators is MD Motivator. If you check him out on kind of Instagram and things like that, a guy called Zach, who you know, he does a lot of like give back stuff, and you know, it's an inspiring follow. So we just want to promote more content like that.
Fantastic, dude. Fantastic. All right, mate. So like, we've pretty much come to the end of the questions. It's been great chatting. How about like a message you'd like to share and end with for the viewers or listeners?
I think do more good. Do more good where you can. Be kind.
I like it. Just short, sweet, and
Yeah.
simple. And,
Yeah. That's kind of what we're promoting on the Good News Network as well. So I'll end on that.
All right. Awesome. Fantastic. Well, guys, this has been James Street. It's been a pleasure to interview you, mate. Thanks so much for your time.
Pleasure.
And everyone, check out the Lighthouse campus based here in Venice, California. There's also one opening in Brooklyn. Definitely give the Lighthouse a follow on social media as well. And don't forget to keep tuning in for future guests. Hey guys, if you liked this episode of My Story Unveiled, feel free to give us a like, follow, subscribe, and that way you can keep up with all future content and interviews on this channel. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you on the next one.